from a business side and the bank holistically, we don't have to worry about how much money we make every single month, every single quarter. We're not having our stockholders call and say, where's my return on my investment? So that's helpful. The reason it's helpful is because then we can take each individual loan request or customer request and we can look at it and say, is there something we can do even though it doesn't fit quite inside the box? When you're a stock company, you might have to do 3 or 4 things that are exactly according to regulation or according to standard underwriting. We can make exceptions. We can look at it and we try and get to know our customers really well. And so there may be a situation where an exception is warranted. Well, we can make that exception because our decisions are local. I can make decisions that might benefit the customer. It may not benefit the bank today, tomorrow, the next day, but overall it's the relationship we care about. It's not necessarily that dollar that we care about.
Welcome. I'm Jeremy Ashlock, the Executive Director of the Augusta Downtown Alliance. Today we're in the Skowhegan Savings Studio with Andrew Fortin Trimble and Vicki Alward from Skowhegan Savings Bank. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. What a cool space.
Thank you. Thank you. All thanks to you guys. Andrew, could you start it off? Who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Andrew Fortin Trimble, Chief Banking Officer with Skowhegan Savings Bank. Been with the bank for about going on 6 years now, and loving every minute of it.
Awesome. Vicki, brief introduction.
Yeah, Vicki Alward. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the bank. I've been with the bank 18 years now, so quite a while. Love what I do. And both Andrew and I are also on the Skowhegan Savings Charitable Foundation Board.
Excellent. We have a lot to talk about with that. So the Skowhegan Savings Studio, it's right here in downtown Augusta at the Augusta Teen Center, the Boys and Girls Club. We had the opportunity to apply for an entrepreneurial ecosystem grant through the SBA and MDF and MDC several years ago. And that helped conceive this idea for a state-of-the-art boardroom space here in the Teen Center. And amongst that, we reached out to Skowhegan Savings Bank and we pitched them this idea that not only should we do a boardroom, but at the time COVID was going on and there was really this need for a digital pivot from folks. And really we pitched to them, what about a content creation studio? And Skowhegan Savings was incredibly receptive to that idea. And in particular, not only for the business community to use that content creation studio, but for the teens here in the Teen Center. And I believe it was actually the foundation that kind of came in and gave us this matching grant to support this studio. So do either of you guys want to talk about kind of how that came to fruition and maybe what the foundation's overall mission is to do?
Yeah, so a lot of our foundation mission right now is on workforce development. So if we can get some young teens or other people trained for either soft skills or, whether it's this or logging or anything that really we need some skill development, that's what we're looking to do. Foundation also does financial literacy. That's very important to us. As a bank, we want all teens and adults to have some financial literacy components. So we spend a lot of time with that as well.
Andrew, anything to add?
Yeah, no, it's so cool to see a space like this for the community to use. And like you said, for the Teen Center, I know we've talked a lot about in the past, them having the ability to edit and learn how to use this equipment, which to Vicki's point on workforce development is really what we want to do. We've heard from a lot of our business owners throughout the state and customers that we work with every day that is the biggest challenge that they face is just finding skilled and talented workforce to help their business grow and help them continue to do their daily operations.
Nice. Okay, so we have one example of something that the foundation has contributed towards and made some meaningful impact in a community. What else have you guys been up to this spring, summer? Do you guys have anything on the docket in another community that you want to talk about?
I would just say a couple of years ago now, the foundation made $1 million commitment to workforce development. So we've been getting a lot of applications. We have had, I think, the 3rd or 4th year in a row now that we've supported a mechanized logging program where we actually provide scholarships for kids and adults to go learn how to use logging equipment. We have a great resource that provides the actual excavators and the big equipment. But what we found was that the students didn't have the ability to go up into that remote area and not have the living expenses, pay for their groceries, do all those things. So our scholarship does allow for people to participate in that training and get the skills they need. And then we've had some success stories where some of those young individuals are now working on the job in the logging industry, which is desperately needed. So,
and actually on that same mechanized logging operating program, Vicki and I have had the chance to attend their graduations the past couple of years, as well as actually see the program in action. And it's just so cool. You've got these, I think some of on the younger end, 17-year-old kids learning how to run, multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment. And that's really, an example of, especially being in Skowhegan, where our founder was actually in logging over 155 years ago. And so we're certainly rooted in that, no pun intended. And a lot of our business customers have that need. And so with that industry changing, we want to try to figure out how can we help them, obviously on the banking side, but then also how can we help them in the community fill the needs that they have. And actually this past weekend, our president, Dan Tilton, and I had the opportunity to attend the Professional Logger Contractor Association of the Northeast, their annual award dinner. And they gifted us an axe. It was probably the coolest. You usually go to these things, you get a plaque or a trophy or something like that. But we actually got a branded axe for their community service award in support of that program. So just that's a great example of just some of the things that our foundation is involved in. As well as Vicki, you could probably speak to a little bit on the project going on right in our backyard in Skowhegan with the Educare Center.
Yeah, so another project was we're building out an elementary school. Obviously, that's state funded, but we really saw a need for early childhood development. So from 0 to 5, and the bank was asked to provide a donation, and we provided a significant donation, $250,000.
Wow.
For that build out. And it's going to provide a critical resource that we need right now, which is childcare from 0 to 5, but it also allows for preschool. What we're finding is when the kids enter kindergarten, maybe they don't have the skills that they once had, or they need some extra skills. So there's going to be a preschool component, but it is a 0 to 5, providing childcare services as well. So what this also allows is the parents to go to work. So it provides workforce development because the parents can actually go to work if they have a reliable, safe place for their kids to go to daycare. So we've done that. We've actually had a couple other, we have one in Kingfield, one in Rangeley that has supported childcare as well. And then on financial literacy, we've had some JMG training programs, and we've participated with UMF on some outdoor activity scholarships where we're hoping that the participants can get some training and some certifications. So whether it's first aid or there are some other training skills that they can get and get certified through our program and through our scholarships.
Yeah, the credentialing is so huge right now, right?
Yeah, it certainly is. And with those examples that Vicki just mentioned, I mean, really what we try to do is listen to our community, listen to our customer base, and really try to figure out, hey, even if something's out of the box, like a podcast studio, like a very niche training program, if we feel it can bring value to our customers, to the communities that we serve throughout Maine, then we want to part in that, and we want to help support that. So we're really, part of the reason that we also want to do the podcast and interviews like this is that we want to get that word out there. Because again, even if there's an idea that doesn't fit in a typical box, but it can bring that value, then like I said, we want to be part of it.
Yeah.
The other part for me is we talked about collaboration. So you mentioned a match program. If we can be a part of something bigger, that's also great too. So we've done match programs before. So maybe they need $25,000 for a match, or maybe it's $50,000 for a match, but it's bringing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to a community that otherwise wouldn't get it. So sometimes it's match funding. So we have to work with the Main Streets of the world or other organizations, other 501c3s that are doing projects that just need a little bit of support.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You've mentioned a lot about kind of the foundation's core values and how some of those activities go back to some of the core values of the bank. Like if one of the founders was a logger, right, and you're still participating in that industry. So day to day in the culture of Skowhegan Savings Bank, what kind of core values do you guys see when you walk up and down the hall? How's the culture there?
So our mission is to make our communities a better place to live and work. We're not owned by shareholders or stockholders.
Okay.
We're really owned by our depositors. But our goal, and the reason why I work at Skowhegan Savings, I'm proud to do so, is we're participating at the bank level in addition to the foundation level. So we're going to have the Skowhegan Savings on your rec teams, on your band concert, on a concert in the park, some other marketing opportunities, but they're really sponsoring local events. So we want to make sure that our employees are involved. A lot of our employees are on committees. Andrew and I both sit on committees just to help out in the communities. But I think that's the bank's mission, is to make our communities a better place to live and work. And that's what our employees really take pride in from the bank. And then it just extends to the foundation.
Yeah, I mean, in 2024 alone, we had over $660,000 donated to our community. So that's a combination of the foundation dollars focused on workforce development, as Vicki mentioned, all the just various local events, school boosters, things of that nature. And then we also, one thing that I'm really proud about working at Skowhegan Savings is the volunteer hours as well. So last year we had over I think it was about around 3,200, 3,200, volunteer hours, where, our employees are actively at an event. They're not robots, I swear.
Yeah.
Are actively at an event, or sitting on a board and just, highly involved in those. So it's just great to see, the one thing is the funds, but then also the time of our people and our employees, being very active in all those things.
Andrew, where can some of our listeners find Skowhegan Savings Bank in Augusta?
Yeah, so we're right off of Civic Center Drive in Augusta, and we actually have 12 locations throughout the state of Maine, mostly in Somerset, Franklin, Penobscot County, Kennebec, and then down in Cumberland County in Portland. So yeah,
nice.
And I always say you can reach us all the time on your phone, on your telephone. We take great pride in the fact that we have a live answer call center. So when you call us, we're going to answer the phone. We're going to try and get you your answer right away, or transfer once to the person that can get you your answer. And we give a great service as far as callbacks if for some reason you need to leave a message. But young kids, especially the teen center here, we do a lot of work with teens on how do you open your first savings account? How do you open your first checking account? What if you want an auto loan in the future? So there's training programs, interview skills, all of those things that we also participate in. But where can you find us? You can find us online. You can find us on your phone. We have mobile apps. Banking is 24/7 now. We have all those tools, but we also have the 12 branches for you to come in and actually talk to us for detailed conversations, or if you need help with something.
And thinking more for the small business owners down here, let's talk about a small business owner in downtown Augusta. What would they approach you for? What sorts of things would they need?
So we get a lot of requests for equipment loans, a lot of requests for working capital loans. They're starting a business and they don't quite have enough to get started. A lot of it is personal advice. Now, we can't tell them how to run their business, certainly, but if you haven't had a conversation with an accountant or an attorney on what type of business you should form, whether it's an LLC or sole proprietorship, or do you need an S corp return? We have some general guidance that is pretty solid for all of our small businesses. We also have references, so a lot of times it's using that collaboration with the Small Business Development Center to say, if you haven't done a business plan, they will work with you and they'll draft a business plan and they'll make you bank ready. We also have some other agencies that do have loan programs that if you don't fit with a traditional bank, or if you need an agency guarantee, we can talk about those things. So it's all dependent on what that small business needs. So if they need loans, then we direct them in one area. If they need, I really want to know how to, scan our checks so that we don't have to come to the bank. We want to do all the things, remote deposit capture. Then that's a different group at the bank. But certainly, Andrew and I know who to connect you with. And so small businesses just need to make that first phone call and we can try and figure out what is it that they need, because it's not about what we need. It's about how can we help them be more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a lot about your presence in the community, and obviously you folks know the Augusta Downtown Alliance. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That we're in the community building business, right? So it's really nice to have you guys down and talk about how a lot of your stuff is community focused.
I guess for me, just if anybody has any questions about Skowhegan Savings, feel free to give Andrew or I a call. We're always available, but stop at one of our branches. If you need something we want interview skills, we want credit bureau, what's in your credit bureau, you want any type of lending advice, whether it's Andrew, myself, we have a whole host of other people at the bank that's willing to come and go to a school, go to a committee just to do a presentation on a certain topic. And we love doing those things. We have people that are available and willing. So it's really just getting the word out there that, we are here for our communities all across the state.
Yeah, and I would just say one of the things that we pride ourselves in on the banking side of things is just our approachability, our approachability, and as Vicki mentioned, our availability as well. Whether it's someone starting their first business and just working through a business plan, looking to get financing, opening their first operating account for a business, we really don't use fancy banking lingo. We try to make it as simple and as straightforward as possible. We don't wear suit and ties at any of our locations. You won't see that. And that's because we don't want to come off as bankers, right? For lack of a better way of saying it. As much as I love the banking industry and love working in it, we want to meet our customers where they're at. And we can work with those businesses just starting out all the way to very complex and large transactions. And then on the availability side of things, as Vicki mentioned, our lenders take great pride, especially our mortgage lenders. A lot of people shopping for a home, they're doing that on the weekends. Yeah. They're looking at those things after hours. So if you have to wait till the next business day to get a response back or to work on a pre-approval letter, then that doesn't usually work well for most people. So we take a lot of pride in being available on our customers' time and our borrowers' time. So that's what we try to bring to the table on the banking side of things. And then on the community side of things, it all goes hand in hand because again, we live, work, and play where our customers and our communities are. And so whether you need a decision on a complex banking transaction or help with a fraud issue, or you're looking for a sponsorship for a sports booster program or a larger grant, all of those decisions are made locally right here in Maine. So.
Excellent, guys. Well, it's so important. So when we think about the type of folks that are sort of walking into Skowhegan Savings Bank, you have sort of your commercial business owner types, and then you might have your residential average Joe walking in for a mortgage type.
Yeah. From a business side and the bank holistically, we don't have to worry about how much money we make every single month, every single quarter. We're not having our stockholders call and say, where's my return on my investment? So that's helpful. The reason it's helpful is because then we can take each individual loan request or customer request and we can look at it and say, is there something we can do even though it doesn't fit quite inside the box? Mm-hmm. When you're a stock company, you might have to do 3 or 4 things that are exactly according to regulation or according to standard underwriting. We can make exceptions. We can look at it and we try and get to know our customers really well. And so there may be a situation where an exception is warranted. Well, we can make that exception because our decisions are local. I can make decisions that might benefit the customer. It may not benefit the bank today, tomorrow, the next day, but overall it's the relationship we care about. It's not necessarily that dollar that we care about.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference as Vicki mentioned that that pressure that stock held banks have from their shareholders, right? That's the reason they exist and that's how they make money. And not having that pressure really allows us to focus on the relationship on the consumer side too. We're one of the only banks left in the state of Maine that is a portfolio bank. So what that means is we don't sell our mortgages. We hold them all within our bank. And that allows us to, again, really at times be creative. We do a lot of seasonal properties, a lot of second homes. And it also allows us to have that direct relationship with the customer where they know after they close their loan, it's not going to get sold in another month or two. I've personally had that happen in the past years ago when my first home that my wife and I bought, and that can be incredibly frustrating. And oftentimes you can have a borrower that their loan gets bounced around several times throughout the duration of that loan. Whereas for us, once you close on a loan with us, it stays on our books. When you have issues, any questions, you can reach out to our loan servicing team that sits right in Skowhegan. So you're dealing with someone local. And that just makes a huge difference. And we find that a lot of our customers just find a great sense of comfort and security in that. And then it just also allows us to, just going back to the mutual savings side of things, it allows us to be in it for the long haul. So we look at every customer relationship, not as a number, but as a person. Again, many of them are our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers. And so it allows us to really try to meet their best needs and not try to push products on them that don't make sense, but really try to find the products that bring value to them. Because the better that they do growing as a person or as a business, the better the bank does too. So it's mutually beneficial. It gets back to the whole definition of how we're structured as a mutual savings bank.
Yeah, and I think just from an outsider's perspective, that's almost like your X factor, right? Because you are so in tune with the community's needs, you're out everywhere. You're seeing that adding the pizza oven would make this place a whole different place, right? Like you see those little details that on paper, it'd be like, no, that doesn't make sense, right? To this massive, top 4 banking institution. But the fact that you have your finger on the pulse of the community kind of gives you that advantage, right? To be flexible and do the things that long-term will benefit the community. So from an outsider's perspective, I see the value, it's great.
Yeah. The other option we have is because we're here, because we're local, we know who else does some collaborations with different loan programs, or if there's a grant program available,
Right.
some of those things help in that regard as well, where, a large company that's housed out of state wouldn't have those resources.
Yeah, so you could almost be a resource to help them kind of build their funding stack and really make things actually possible.
And at times we are one of 3.
Right.
3 people that are providing resources for that particular business to grow, to start, to expand. And that's one of the favorite parts of what I do is to try and figure out how can we make it work for this customer? How can we make it work for that business and for the community that business is going to serve?
Well, and how can we make it work in a way that benefits the customer, right? Going back to, especially when you get to an ultra regional bank or a national bank,
Right.
At the end of the day, they don't really, when they're 10 and 20, 30 hours away, they don't really care necessarily. They're worried about their risk exposure for sure, but they don't necessarily care. And they don't know the person, where if that business isn't set up or structured in a financing way that is not beneficial to them and could put that business at risk, even if it makes sense from a collateral and risk standpoint for the bank, they don't necessarily care because they don't know those people and they probably will never see them. Whereas we truly care and want to make it work. And also that the mutual savings structure for us allows us to be creative and really try to figure out how to make it work and take into account, as Vicki mentioned, different things that again, another bank just simply may not take the time to look at and consider.
Vicki, can you talk about some of the things that Skowhegan Savings Bank has coming up this summer?
One of the things that we are really proud of is scholarships that we do for high school graduations. So that's coming up. We are attending various high school graduations. We do provide a Skowhegan Savings Bank scholarships to our local schools to students that are graduating with hopefully a business degree or heading towards that business degree. So that's one of the things that we do. And we have JMG, who has also recognized us with a community award for participating in some of their events and doing some interview skills and some soft skills with them over the course of the year.
Yeah, one of the other things we haven't talked about yet, we mentioned some of the technical training programs. The childcare there's been multiple of those that we've just recently supported and are in the process of being built or expanded. But we also are really involved with a lot of different business accelerator programs or startup and business coaching. There's one coming up here pretty soon through Dirigo Labs in Waterville and the Central
nice.
Maine Growth Council. And they do a fantastic program. Usually about 12 different businesses go through that program, have really robust programming. And then at the end of it, they do a pitch competition. So for the past, this will be year number 4, we've sponsored the prize for that pitch competition. It's a $25,000 prize to the winner.
Right.
And so we're sponsoring that again this year. And I just always look forward to attending that event and events like that. Cause it's, you have the technical training, the programming, the childcare. So we're really trying to get the full, and then the business and startup development side of things. You really get with those different pieces, the full evolution, if you will, of what's needed in the workforce. And as Vicki mentioned on the childcare side, if you don't have that and you don't have a workforce that has those resources, then they can't get to work.
Right.
So it's just cool. It's just so enjoyable to be a part of all of those different things and to see the entire, I guess, life cycle, if you will, of the workforce.
Vicki, you mentioned the student scholarships that you folks do. Is there an envisioned life cycle that Skowhegan Savings Bank thinks of when they think about, from when a child's born to becoming an adult, how they should interact with the bank?
Well, we hope they have their parents and their grandparents' accounts. That's the start.
Okay.
We do have some really cool stories of like 4 or 5 generations where they've been a Skowhegan Savings Bank customer, in their family for over 100 years, which is really cool. But honestly, for me, I really believe that, every child should have a savings account to start. They should have sort of that general little training of, put your money in your piggy bank type of training, or bring your child to work or to the bank and give that $5 or $10 deposit so that they understand that they're saving towards something. Really, one of the things that we've seen a lot of lately is that 13, 14-year-old, they are starting to think about, what's my first job going to look like? What's my first ATM card going to look like? Those types of things. So mom and dad or a responsible adult have to be on the account for that age group. But when it comes time around 16 and you get your license, really that debit card is your gas card. So a checking account really makes sense at that point. So again, you might have a responsible parent that's on that account to help you work through that. But that is really a great time to get mobile banking as well so that they can set up those alerts. Mobile banking has low balance alerts and transfer alerts. So mom or dad or whoever the responsible person can get on that account. They can get the alerts, and so can the student. So we really recommend that 15, 16, 17-year-old, start thinking about that checking account. What we often find happen is they get ready to go to college at 17, 18 years old. It's August. They're going to school out of state, and oh crap, I don't have a debit card yet. How is mom going to give me money, or how's that going to work out? So in August, we kind of have a little bit of activity in a checking account, but that really could be done, their junior year of high school.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about financial literacy. I know in some high schools it's there, but really that should include open that first checking account if you don't have one, or that savings account if you don't have one. And use Skowhegan Savings Bank as a teacher of sorts of, here's the alert you can put on it, here's the way to protect it, here's the way to protect your ATM card or your debit card from fraud, what to look for. So there's all kinds of little things that we could go into the schools and talk about, but also as a parent, if they have questions, they just need to reach out.
And so if I were a 15-year-old kind of starting a savings account for the first time, how much money would I need to bring to the bank to start that account?
Yeah, so you actually don't need any as a 15-year-old. You can open an account with no funds and have no minimum monthly balance required, no fees. As Vicki mentioned, free online banking, mobile banking, debit card as well for those that qualify. So yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible, and I think a lot of a lot of kids nowadays, a lot of adults, but especially children, they've never been exposed to a bank. Many of them have never been inside a bank, right?
Yeah.
And so what we want to try to provide to them is that realization of the value that we can bring. If you just move all of your money and use Venmo or PayPal or other apps like Cash App, other things like that, they oftentimes, especially our older teenagers, and as Vicki mentioned, those getting ready to go to college, they start to learn that if all of their funds have been sitting and moving through those apps, they really don't have anywhere to turn to for a mortgage down the road, or for financing for a car, or for things like that. And so that's where we can step in and really provide that local support. I can tell you in prior years, I've had different PayPal accounts and whatnot, and let me tell you that if you have an issue and need to reach out to support, or you need to move a more significant amount of funds, you can't, and it takes forever for them to get back to you. And that's where it's really good for kids to realize that, hey, it's not just an old bank building, and archaic, but it actually is really beneficial to you and in your best interest to build that relationship. And so that's something that we really try to encourage parents, to educate their kids on, and we can step in and provide that information.
Excellent. And I guess to go through this circuit one more time, if I were a small business owner, or I was thinking about opening a small business for the first time, and I came to Skowhegan Savings Bank and I said, I'd like to open a small business account. I just started an LLC, right? What would that look like for that person?
So they would have to have the paperwork for the LLC so that we would have the documentation we need to open the account. But very small balance accounts can be opened with no fees. Depends on what that customer looks like, what type of transactions they're going to do. We'll help guide them. We may have 3 or 4 different account options for them. We'll let them know, oh, you're only going to do 20 transactions a month. This is the appropriate account for you. Or are you going to do 300 or 3,000 transactions a month? This might be a better account for you. And walk through how are they set up. And then we also have, okay, well, once your account is set up, then you need online business banking. Do you need wire capability, or are you never going to do a wire? Do you need ACH capability? We have all these steps that we go through, but we actually have a cash management team of 3 individuals who will meet with the business, walk through what they need. We'll actually look at if they have an account somewhere else and they want to come to Skowhegan Savings. We'll look at their transaction activity. Our goal is to put them in the best account for them. And again, as Andrew said, as they succeed, we succeed. We want to build a relationship, not just a transaction. So we don't need to make a lot of money on a checking account. It's not our goal to fee people. It is our goal to put them in the account that makes the most sense for them. And as they succeed, we succeed. So, and we hope they remember that when they are really very successful business and stay with us for years to come.
Yeah, and a lot of what we find is a lot of businesses just don't, especially as they're growing. I mean, I can just think as a small business owner myself as well, like I can just think through, there's different stages of when your business grows. You kind of have that realization of like, oh, I should probably have a legal formation, right? Or, oh, I need to find a better accountant. Why am I paying? So, you go through all of these stages, and it's the same thing on banking where there's a lot of services that people have never heard of before. Or they might think it's just for really large businesses. That we offer that can make their life so much easier. Vicki mentioned earlier, remote deposit capture. If you have a lot of checks that you receive as a business and you don't want to have to run to the bank all of the time, and it's a number that can't be accepted through the app for risk purposes, both for you and for us, then we can run that through something called remote deposit capture, RDC. It can make it incredibly more convenient for you to batch a lot of checks over at once, never have to go into the branch. There's a lot of fraud mitigation tools for businesses that, again, you might not think that you'll ever have a fraud incident, but that moment you do, and you potentially lose a lot of money because your email was hacked or you received a fraudulent check, regardless of what it is. That's never a big deal until it is.
Right. And
so we have different tools like Positive Pay that can really help mitigate that risk and provide you much more control over your accounts. So it's really enjoyable to go through and build that relationship with a business customer so we can find the best products that make sense for them.
Vicki, if anyone listening is interested in hearing more about the Skowhegan Savings Bank Foundation, where can they go to find that information?
For anybody interested in the foundation, certainly go to skowhegansavings.com and you can find out information about the bank. You can find out information about our lending team, but you can also click on foundation materials. And if you're a nonprofit that has a training program that you're looking for funding, certainly put an application in. Andrew and I are 2 of the board members on that foundation. We have some board members that aren't Skowhegan Savings Bank employees. They're actually leaders in the community and business leaders. And they're also on the foundation board just to provide a little bit of balance. But certainly go out to the website. If you have any questions, we're available and always ready to return a phone call.
Yeah, we always enjoy looking through those applications and reading and learning about the different initiatives going on in our community. And it's just always such a joy to when we're able to participate and it makes sense. To be able to see the fruition of those programs and see the fruition of rooms like this here at the Teen Center. So it's a really enjoyable thing to be a part of.
Excellent.
Can I just add a real quick plug on the studio? So
please.
This is a space that we want to be available for others in the community to use. If you're a small business and would like to use this space, you can coordinate with Jeremy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
We don't have to be here if you want to use just the space for your business. Feel free to do that. We want it to be a place where others can benefit from as well. Yes, absolutely.
For the folks listening, if you are interested in shooting some content in the Skowhegan Savings Studio, please feel free to email me directly at director@augustadowntown.com and we can have that conversation.